I'm Will Carr, and I'm here to fire you up. All right, everyone, welcome back to the Will Carr Speaks podcast. I'm, of course, Will Carr, and I got a really fun guest here with me today, Corey Blair, Break the Chains Media, right here in Colorado. Corey gets into some really fun stuff, and we're gonna have an interesting conversation today. I definitely don't think this is an episode that you guys are gonna want to miss. So. With that said, man, yeah, Corey, you got your hot sauce company here.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Corey Blair. I do Break the Chains Media. I've been like an on-the-ground activist. I don't want to say protester, but I'm passionate about politics, passionate about my state, passionate about what happens here. But with that being said, I'm a collector of hobbies, and one of my hobbies is making hot sauce. So I do have Realm Walker hot sauce. I've like a bunch of different flavors. You can find that on my website, breakthechains.media. But super small batch, super limited, but absolutely delicious.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, before we get into it, brother, you say you brought some Zen pouches.
Are you fiending? You're fiending.
I am.
You
man.
need a little edge off.
I'm gonna rat on myself a little bit here. So typically when people watch my episodes, I always come with a change of shirts because I try to pretend like each one of these episodes is a different day. But when I do these, I typically do 4 or 5 in one sitting. So I'll sit down, do an episode, and go on for an hour and a half, and I'll do that 4 or 5 times in a row. So this is my 4th podcast today. I have a
in
5th
the
one.
Slog. You're just running the gambit on the podcast.
And sometimes these nicotine pouches, man, I tell you, nicotine is the most misunderstood compound.
It really is.
When you use it, too much of it, it's not good for you. But in small doses is one of the most powerful nootropics to just keep your brain sharp. And like, there's been so many studies even with nicotine to show that cures Alzheimer's. And, obviously not making any medical claims, but you can go and Google and search the research yourself. But nicotine in low dose is good for lots of stuff like that. So we're participating in a little 3 milligram pouch
we are
here.
Equal participants in this. No, well, nicotine is good. I mean, like I just don't like the addictiveness of it. Obviously,
Yeah.
I've been smoker to pouches, you name it, but I think that there's a lot of good aspects to proper nootropics and proper balancing of how you ingest nootropics. I did see that there was I can't remember the brand right now, but there's a mushroom blend nootropic that has no nicotine, no tobacco, but it actually does the same kind of brain chemistry that actually I'm trying to wean off of it.
Yeah.
Wean off the Zen and kind of move into that the mushroom pouches. We'll see what it's like. But it always go back to the Zen. It always go back. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think, I've never been a smoker, so I've never had that like addictive relationship with nicotine,
Sure.
which allows me I actually use it. I probably use it 4 times a week in these little 3 milligram. Whether I need to lock in for a couple hours, I'm doing a bunch of work, or like a day like today when I'm going to be doing podcasts for 6 hours.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, like when I go down to I'll go down to the Capitol. Like one of the big things that I try to focus on is keeping our politicians held accountable here in the state of Colorado. And that's what we need to do. But when I'm down at the Capitol, I'm there like 8-10 hours. Yeah. I'm writing my testimonies, trying to research on these bills or what they're trying to pass. And yes, nicotine is necessary.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that is one of the things. And actually the Colorado session is actually coming up. The 2026 special, the session is coming up and I think a couple weeks or next week. But the Colorado special session's starting in 2026, and it's going to be a hot one. It's going to be a big one because this is the last year that Governor Polis is our governor. He's termed out. So the Colorado politicians are going to be going really hard on their further left progressive style agendas.
Yeah.
I know that energy is going to be a huge issue. I don't know if you guys remember the whole XL power shutoffs that happened on the Front Range.
Yep.
But the energy issue is going to be a big topic come this session, as well as Tabor. And some people don't understand
the
What's it called? What's it called? Yeah, what is it? The full name of Tabor.
The Taxpayer Bill of Rights.
Yes, it is the
And we
Taxpayer
need to-
Bill of
yeah,
Rights.
Yeah, we need to continue to say that, because when you just say Tabor, it's easy to glaze over what it actually
Yep.
is. And if you're a Coloradan and you're a taxpayer, do you even know that you have a Bill of Rights?
You have the rights to know what our tax money is going to, and we
Yeah.
have a right to vote on where that money goes.
Right.
And the progressive left here in Colorado want to remove that so that they can fully just take it all the way to the nth degree. And you actually see that happening in Oregon and Washington. They do not have a taxpayer bill of rights. Their state budget is 3 times the amount of Colorado right now. I mean, I think our Colorado state budget's like $44 billion. We're in a deficit because of Democrat financial mismanagement. However, what it really comes back down to is that Tabor Taxpayer Bill of Rights holds the politicians accountable for how they spend our money.
Mhm.
And that's why they want to remove it. It's basically just a stopgap to make sure that they can not fiscally mismanage our money.
And it's wild that this is even a partisan issue, because,
Yeah.
you know, of course there are topics that are partisan. Unfortunately, it should just be people, you know, that are all trying to do the right thing. But to think that as taxpayers, we have rights to understand how our tax money is spent, and to think that the Colorado Democrats are trying to remove that.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, you don't even have to be libertarian. You don't have to be liberty, freedom focused to feel like that's something that we should all have the right.
Absolutely. And it really bothers me because, like you said, they make it a political issue. They make it a left-right issue. Like, I'm pretty sure everyone agrees that in light of everything we've seen nationally, the government does not manage our money well. The government doesn't do a good job with managing our money. So to have that as a safeguard, to a protection that the government can not spend our money irresponsibly. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but this last 2025 Colorado session,
Yep.
they just put in law codified full-term abortion here in the state of Colorado, but not just codified full-term abortion. They make the taxpayers pay for it. So now it is a taxpayer-funded program here in the state of Colorado. And I know that's a third rail issue, that, like, you know, abortion, pro-life, pro-choice, whatever. The fact is that some people don't want that money going to abortion. And I think that's totally viable.
Yeah.
But the government here in Colorado just said, screw it, we're going to just send it full taxpayer money abortions. I'm like, nah, we should have a say on where that money goes. Honestly, that's my personal opinion.
Absolutely. And I just think it's wild in general that, you know, George Washington went and started a war over 3% tax on tea, man.
Yeah.
And here we are now, and everybody just takes it.
10%. 10% inflation rate on a 3% tax. We are now sitting 30 upwards of 40% of our 4 months out of the year. Our income goes to the government.
And then they feel like they can do whatever they want with it.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's absolutely horrible. But yeah, so we're going to be holding them accountable here in the state of Colorado. At least me.
Yeah.
I'm going to do everything I can in this legislative session to make sure that our money is going to the right places. And then actually, it's actually funny. You could check out on my Rumble channel, but this past, I think it was like June or July, I went in and I guess I went undercover, but
I saw this video
during the big beautiful bill. I don't really like everything that was in the big beautiful bill.
Right.
I thought there's a lot of stuff in there, but the Democrats were doing this statewide campaign against the big beautiful bill, and they said everything, all of Colorado's financial woes, all of our deficit is caused from the Trump administration. They all point the fingers at Trump. Oh, that's why Colorado's in a deficit, budget deficit. Yeah. And I went in there undercover. I kind of look a little radical. I kind of fit in a little bit, but to be fair, there was a bunch of like 60 and 70-year-old people in there, but that's neither here nor there. But I went in there and they had a whole panel of Colorado Democrats, and I called them out. I got escorted out by the police.
Yep.
And I was just basically saying Colorado's been financially mismanaged for a very long time, and it's nothing new. So don't point the finger at the Trump administration that just got into office.
Yeah.
Colorado has been, for the better part of a decade, been
in
held
a deficit.
Yeah, been well, not just in a deficit,
Okay.
but been held by Democrat control.
Yeah.
So the Democrats' decisions for a very long time here in Colorado has put us in this every year, this budget woe, this budget crisis that's the Colorado's facing, and they want to point the finger. It's all projection with these progressive leftists, and I just call them out on their lies, and I get escorted out by police. So I was very civil, but we got to hold these people accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. And man, I mean, it's just even for them to balance the budget like they just did. It took a lot of shady maneuvering and moving tax dollars around to be able to cover the things that they say they're covering with dollars that aren't supposed to go into places.
Oh, yeah. Well, the interesting thing is, and that I think we're going to see a breaking point in this 2026 session, because they did all that shady workaround in 2025 to balance the budget. They even opened a special session later in the year to try to balance the budget. Well, they pulled all their cards. All the sleeve, the sleeve is empty, folks. They don't got nothing left. So what's going to happen now is 2026 is going to be very interesting to see how they do this financial workaround, or this financial shuffling of the cups on the table, right? Where is the money going to be coming from? I don't know, but they're going to try to do something. So it is going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's totally like that ball game, that you'll see like at a baseball game where it's, follow which cup.
Yep. That's literally what they do.
Except instead of 3 cups that you're trying to follow, it's 3,000 and
it's
nobody
all full of
can
your
keep track.
money.
Yeah. Yeah. And every time the cup moves off the table, money just falls out.
Yeah. Right in their pocket.
Yeah. Right into some government NGO.
Yeah. Absolutely. And actually one of the NGOs has been a real problem here in Colorado for a long time.
Yep.
And you've seen, I don't know if you've seen, have you seen Rocky Mountain Heist?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Rocky Mountain Heist was a movie that came out, probably over a decade
ago. Tell us about that, because people need to go and watch this. So you can probably only find it on Rumble.
Actually, you can't find it on YouTube.
Okay.
I think her name was Michelle Malkin.
Okay.
And John Caldera was there. Like a lot of great Colorado reporters got involved. Tom Tancredo was one of the representatives at the time. I think it came out in 2006, but basically talking about how the Gang of Four, as it were, there's 4 people that came into Colorado: Polis, Pat Stryker, Tim Gills, and one other. I can't think of the other one right now. But 4 very rich, very wealthy Democrats came into Colorado and completely changed the landscape by focusing on NGO reform, NGO building out, as well as union building. And these people came in the early 2000s, completely changed the Colorado landscape. Highly recommend watching Rocky Mountain Heist. However, what's happening now is that there's a new guard of progressive leftists that use these NGOs, and they get in the representative positions, and these NGOs support various bills that one politician in particular, her name's Lorena Garcia.
Okay.
She has an NGO who focuses on families, who focuses on childcare. Childcare was a conversation up in Minnesota, right?
There's maybe a little bit of fraud.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Childcare.
It's healthcare, it's childcare, and it's all this NGO. And as soon as she got in, 11 days after she was appointed to her position, mind you, she was not elected in her initial term. She was appointed to her position, and that's another huge problem. We can side tangent, but the appointments is a huge issue because you can just get appointed to a position. Anyways, so she gets appointed to her position. 11 days after that, her NGO starts getting tens of thousands of dollars rolling in, and then she starts passing and operating through legislative sessions.
To the tune of millions.
Millions. Now it's upwards of millions of dollars. And this is how the NGO works. Not just one small example, but I think a huge problem with Colorado fraud is the homelessness. How are they taking care of homeless in Denver? How are they taking care of homeless in Colorado? We have a huge influx of population of not just homeless, but immigrants as well. So the NGOs work with immigrants, work with homeless, and there's varying different degrees on how they launder or funnel our taxpayer money through these NGOs
right back to themselves.
Self-enrichment. And we got to hold these people accountable. Like I don't know. I think that's the theme of the day, is holding our government officials accountable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been doing this. I obviously woke up around 9/11. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm wearing the InfoWars shirt, right?
Shirt.
But they're turning the frogs gay, right? But to be fair, it is atrazine. It's not just
shout out to AJ.
AJ, you're my boy. You're my boy, AJ. No, but honestly, 9/11 is what really woke me up.
Yeah.
I was marching up and down Denver talking about 9/11 and the Building 7, and then I went into the Ron Paul era, the whole Ron Paul revolution, talking about ending the Fed and what it really means to be a responsible conservative. And I'm trying to. I've personally evolved for about a decade. I was very anti-establishment, anti-government, and I think we all agree government sucks.
Yeah.
But living in the world that we have, our current culture, our current society right now, the government is a responsibility not of the elected officials, but of the people, right? And making sure that the people understand that we are the highest form of government. The people, yourself, is the highest form of government. So for about a decade, I don't really want to consider myself an anarchist, but I was just anti-government, right?
Yeah.
But through that time, I understood that the individual is the highest form of government, and we need to make our own decisions through morality, through logic, through virtues, through values. And then we need to live on that, but actually apply that into government and not just expect elected officials to do the right thing. And I think that's where we've fallen off the boat, is that we have lost sight of what it means to be actively involved in your community, in your government. And just once voting season's over, suddenly people just stand back and say, oh, I did my part. I voted.
Yep.
No. You have to stay consistent, and you have to stay actively involved. Go to your city council meetings, go to your school board meetings, go to all these different things. I guarantee you right now, if you were to look in your local community, whether it's your city or your county, there's a position available, whether it's a volunteer position or not, but you can get involved and you can actually do something in your community to make a change in your community, because I think that's what really happens. And as I grew, as I got older, I am a single father, so I've got a 14-year-old, and I think having children does dynamically change how someone approaches politics and
Absolutely.
So as my son got older and as I got older, I understood that you can't always be the guy on the corner with the sign saying the end is near. You can't always be that guy.
Yeah.
Well, yes, everything sucks, but how do we solve it? What is the remedy to the problem?
Yeah.
The remedy to the problem is getting involved in your communities and standing up, testifying, and getting on these boards or petitioning against bad bills or bad legislation, right? And then hopefully at some point down the line, you get in office yourself.
Yeah.
The reluctant politician is the best politician.
Right.
The person who doesn't want to be a politician should be in every elected position.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of that, I mean, we're both single fathers. It's something that we share. And that's how we met at the Jefferson County School Board here in Colorado.
Yeah, during the COOF era, during the COVID eras, mask mandates.
Oh, dude, and they were trying to force all our kids to wear masks. I had a medical exemption for my daughter. I think any sane person at this point can look back and recognize that to have put these kids in masks for years was such a travesty. And I don't know how else to even say that. My daughter went to school, kindergarten and first grade.
Yep.
She had a mask exemption. She's one of the only kids in the school to have a mask exemption. And the school, Jefferson County schools, tried to treat her like she had leprosy.
Yeah, she's an alien. She's got an arm growing out of her head, right?
And I often think about that. Those other kids at the school, my daughter's face was the only face that they saw. When they were communicating with each other, hers was the only smile. Hers was the only face. And I might be slightly biased, but my daughter's adorable and beautiful. So all of them had if they only get one face to look at, they had
at least it's hers.
They had a really good one to look at.
Yeah.
But from a developmental standpoint, when you're a kid, man, and you're trying to learn facial expressions, you're trying to read people's lips when they're talking, all these kids that came out with speech impediments and stuff because they can't see the teacher's face either.
You think about the
and
psychological.
Everyone's just glazed it over oh, that never even happened. I think what sane person can look back now and be that did anything but cause harm?
Oh yeah, no.
Of course these kids should not have been in masks. And they hated parents like us. I mean, I went up and spoke at the school board and
That was great.
ripped
dude.
into
I love
them.
that.
They didn't care.
Nope.
They didn't care at all, man. It's just what is the NGO that runs the various NGOs that run through Jefferson County Public Schools? Who's getting paid to do what? That person on the school board, they're only doing what's making money and putting money in their pocket or putting money in their friends' pockets. It's not that they care about your kid at all.
No, well, and I think that there's a larger, what we saw during COVID is a multifaceted psychological operation on many fronts, whether it was economic, whether it was family, whether it was indoctrination on so many different levels, right? But the generation of children that had to fight through this, I mean, you like you said, you see these developmental, roadblocks that they had to deal with, but it's more than that. And like you said, it's NGOs are an aspect, but I do believe that there was a much larger globalist play. And whether it was the World Economic Forum, Agenda 2030, there was this push. I mean, Klaus Schwab, the leader of the World Economic Forum, he always said, "You will own nothing and you will be happy," right? So, and he wrote,
that's what you want.
He wrote the book, The Great Reset. COVID, the Great. I don't think he said COVID, but the book, The Great Reset, was specifically addressing how there would be a world reset after COVID. And now we're seeing that unfold in real time right now.
Yeah.
The consolidation of monopolies, the consolidation of power, and closing all the businesses, using only big box stores. You couldn't sit in a restaurant without wearing a mask from the door to the table. But then you sit down and suddenly you can take your mask off and you can eat your food. Everything's fine, right? It was just delusional. It was a psychological operation to see how far they can push that envelope of control on the population. Yeah. Still to this day, we still see people wearing masks.
Oh my gosh. I saw a person wearing a mask driving their car by themselves 3 days ago.
It's incredible.
It's 2026.
I have coworkers. I have never seen their face. I have coworkers to this day that still wear a mask all the time.
Man, I'm so glad I work from home.
To be fair, though, I'm sure that the reason that they're wearing the mask, they probably got some mongoloid, they got some weird tooth hanging out. That's why, I'll use a mask to cover up my
that's
my
not
face.
it, man. They're just so psychologically manipulated and still thinking that somehow keeps them safe. Like it's their their blankie, like a little baby that needs a blankie to feel safe. And like, I got my little stuffy. No. And they're an adult. Like,
well, it's also, I think it is an evolutionary tactic that I see that the left, like, it's almost like a symbol, like, I'm with you. Like it's an armband or it's a badge that they wear.
Yeah.
The mask saying, I think like you, and therefore we have a common connection on this cycle. Like they have to live in this liberal hive mind.
Wow. Yeah.
And they're projecting to each other.
It's
right.
what makes them feel like they're a part of something.
It's a subconscious thing that they're doing, that they're like, I'm wearing a mask. And that's a signal to the other people wearing masks that we're all in this little cult.
Yeah. And I think what's really important to point out about COVID, and people, this is something that goes completely untalked about or unnoticed, is, you talk about how much of it was a psychological operation, but much of what the COVID was for this great reset, what had to do with global finances. Mm-hmm. And because what they did when they shut down all the small businesses, kept everybody at home, at the same time, they injected $8 trillion into the economy. Yeah. And at the same time,
money printer go burr.
At the same time they injected $8 trillion into the economy, they shut off the velocity of money. Mm-hmm. And so, without going into a dissertation on economics here, when you inject a tremendous amount of money into the economy, that would cause inflation. But by sucking the money velocity to almost zero, they were able to mask all the inflation at that time. Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting concept of really what they were doing at that time in order to hide the inflation, which is why, and slow that inflation from coming out immediately and turning into hyperinflation. Because when you create $8 trillion overnight, and it's not overnight, but pretty close in the scheme of global economics, overnight, the way they masked that, it's so much bigger than just, oh, we're going to see if these people will give up their freedoms.
Well, you say it's bigger. Yeah, it's bigger than freedoms. It's bigger than, I mean, the finance is a huge aspect. Consolidation of wealth and injecting all that money in. And then you saw everybody buying everything online. But I think that a large component to, because that all happened during 2020.
Yep.
What else happened in 2020? The election.
Yeah.
The Trump-Biden election, 81 million votes, national mail-in ballots.
Yeah.
You know, so there was a large push, and, you know, I'll take the words right out of Obama's mouth. Obama said if he could have a third term and just sit in the basement somewhere and tell someone else what to do. And I'm just watching. I'm just witnessing, you know, I'm just asking questions, right?
I mean, you don't think Biden was you don't think Biden ran his own presidency?
Yeah.
Come on,
Vice
Corey.
President Biden was.
You're such a conspiracy theorist.
The crown jewel, the example of health, sharp as a tack, as Jake Tapper said, right? So, but you saw this complete rigging. And when I say rigging, it's more than just elections. It's the economics. It's the psychological operation. They on many fronts did this in 2020 because they had to do everything they could to stop the Trump administration, to stop. And you know, I'm not a cow. Like, I don't like devoutly believe in MAGA or Trump. I always say, you cannot have celebrity worship of politicians.
100%.
Right?
It's a great mindset that everyone needs to take to
absolutely.
Politics.
But what I understand is that there was a foundational platform of Trump's agenda that it shouldn't even. Trump was a 90s Democrat, folks. Yeah. Like the fact that he's running on secure borders, secure policy, trying to give your tax money back to you, giving you tax breaks. And sure, we can have conversations about tax cuts for the billionaires and corporate, all that other stuff. Not everything he does is perfect. But there was a calculated, organized campaign against the Trump administration. You're seeing it now with Tulsi Gabbard and the DNI. She has evidence speaking directly to how Obama and his ilk did everything they could to spy on Trump before his campaign and to push this agenda. And that's how we got the Biden administration. Yep. And the whole auto pen thing. I mean, come on, folks. Like it was a rife with corruption. Yeah. And we're hopefully going to see something, but I'm not holding my breath.
That's what I was going to say, like a little bit of devil's advocate here. If they really do have all of that evidence, in which they say they have, why is no one being arrested? Right. Why is, what has Pam Bondi done at the DOJ to actually go after anyone? There's been
Pam Blondie.
Pam Blondie. Yeah. There's been nothing done, man. And I think that's super frustrating for people too, because, I think there's this whole group of people that think, and this is where we're at in politics right now. You got a certain amount of people that think all these people on the left are evil, and you've got all these people on the left that think all these people on the right, they're evil. Yeah. And really, we've just got all of us people here, the citizens, and the evil is the people that continue to be in charge, that are above our president, that are above any politician. They're the ones that are in the pockets. We talk about these NGOs and stuff. They're the ones that are telling these politicians what to do, so that way, hey, you can get your, $3 million in your NGO.
Yeah, get your bag, right?
Yeah.
It's so wild because we're all being taxed. We're all being extorted by the government.
Yeah.
The left and the right.
Yep.
It just depends on how you want. What flavor do you want, right? The public has way more in common with each other.
Absolutely.
But I do feel that there is a definitive line of like morality and values. Like,
100%.
Like the left just believes that, we're getting this now. Like I've been called a bootlicker because I say, just follow the law. Like we're not talking about bootlicking, but we're talking about principled values of a nation.
Yeah.
What makes a nation? A nation of laws and a nation of order.
Yep.
And if you don't follow those, you are inherently, by default, a criminal because you are not following the law of the land.
Yep.
I could not go into Germany or Canada or Argentina with just walk through the border and just expect government money. You get EBT stamps, you get a housing, you get a cell phone, you get all these amenities that America offers to their illegal immigrants, and a lot of these illegal immigrant programs give so much handouts to them, and the left just, one of their lines they always say, no one's illegal on stolen land. Correction, it wasn't stolen, it was conquered. Okay, we conquered through treaties, through policies, through purchasing of land. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo is one of the treaties that basically annexed all of that northern area of Mexico into the United States. Yeah. Right after the Mexican-American War. Right. But that's neither here nor there. They just genuinely believe that all these illegals can just come over and take everything. No, I want proper and healthy immigration. Right. They bring up the Ellis Island immigration. Sure. But you also if you just turn one page in the Ellis Island immigration policy, 96% of them were from Europe. Yeah. And they came here with, just the shirt on their back, but they opened up businesses. They became they brought in their culture, but they also assimilated to an American way, right? To become an American. They brought in German, they brought in Italian, they brought in all these different things, but they
came in and fished. They weren't given fish. Yes. And I think that's such an important thing to understand because, this is a biblical concept. You teach a man to, you can give a man a fish, you're going to have to keep giving him fish. Teach a man how to fish, he can fish for himself the rest of his life.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're doing here is we're just giving. And that's where it's like, I'm at my core, I'm a libertarian. I want everyone to be free to live exactly how they want to live.
So long as you don't infringe on my rights.
But don't infringe on other people's rights. Yep. And at the same time, we're impoverishing the rest of the country to give all this money here where it's like, there's so many Americans that are struggling to get by working 3 jobs, yet all the tax money is going to make all of the country third world. And I think it's hard for people to understand because they're like, oh, we sit on this privileged position and we just want to help everybody. And I think, because that's what I would say, like the hardcore leftists think that like guys like you or me are just bad. We don't care about people. Right. Like, no, I care about everyone.
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
I care about everybody so much. It's like, I want to help everyone. But the thing is, it's like, as a person, as an independent individual, I know that if I'm not feeding myself, whether that be actual food to stay strong and healthy, feeding my mind good things to grow, if I'm not working on myself to have to put myself in the absolute best position that I can put myself in, I can only help people to the degree to which I've helped myself.
Yeah.
So if I'm not at 100%, I can't help people long-term at 100%. I can only be there for others if I first take care of myself. It's not selfish to take care of yourself first.
Absolutely.
Because when you take care of yourself first, you can then actually give all of yourself.
Sure. And I'll pull another impersonation here. You've got to clean your room first. Why don't you clean your room? Jordan Peterson, right? Yeah. Jordan Peterson says you got to clean your room. That you've got to take care of yourself, take care of your own world before you can start helping others.
Yeah.
And I think that actually ties in very nicely with this whole America first mindset, right? And it's not that we're sitting here arguing over all this global international problems happening in the world. Well, there's a lot of problems happening in America.
Yeah.
Let's just bring it back home. Clean your room, then we can start helping others, right? Mm-hmm. And you brought up a good point when you said I want to see everyone succeed. I want the best potential for everyone. Right now, all we're doing is taking money out of your pocket to work to expect that the government dole is going to just be given to anyone for everything, and then they're just going to live on that.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's, I mean, if you, yeah, when you really care about other people, it's not about just the thing that I see with the left is that their idea of helping others is just give the government more control, give the government the ability to just take care of everyone.
It's so funny because they sit there and they say big government bad. Like when Trump does a thing, government bad, but government good when it's my thing. Dude, they're just sitting there and they want their flavor of authoritarianism, right? It's okay when it's their version of authoritarianism, right? And I especially recently, I mean this last year with the ICE raids, right? The ICE raids, ever since Trump got into office, it's been the DHS and ICE has been rounding up these illegals, and I think the optics are bad. Doesn't look good. You see these people on the streets. I mean, they do look intimidating. It is a optics. It doesn't look good.
Right.
But however, this needs to be done, and it has to happen the right way.
Yeah.
Right. Initially, they were trying to plainclothes officers arrest and detain illegals at their court hearings, or in a very non-confrontational manner, right? But now it's escalated over the last year. We've seen the shootings in Texas at ICE. Wow.
Okay, you got some water.
Yeah, I got to
take
it,
brother. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so much going on with this. Like, let's talk a little bit about Maduro and Venezuela.
Oh my gosh,
since that just happened.
Yeah.
Share some of your thoughts there.
So, wow. It's a lot to unpack, but Venezuela, I mean, it's been Venezuela has been a problem for a very long time. And what we're seeing unfold now, especially that he just, in 88 minutes, they just bagged and tagged Maduro, total blackout, went in. It was definitely in the moment, I did not want to see another war, right?
Right.
Seeing that unfold was just not good. But then you see coming out of it. Sorry.
You're good.
I don't know.
We're all right. This is what we do, long form content.
Content.
But we might be here all day.
Yeah, just a tickle I can't quite get off. Anyways. All right, Maduro. So it started earlier with Hugo Chavez, right? Hugo Chavez was in control of Maduro. Hugo Chavez was in control of Venezuela for a long time, and then he died. And then Maduro, I think he was like a janitor or something. But the big problem with Maduro or with Venezuela is the fact that, and this is my own opinion, but a lot of evidence out there that Venezuela has unique and intimate ties to election interference, election rigging.
Yeah. And
the Smartmatic systems that were funded in Venezuela, made by Venezuelan business people. Yeah. The Smartmatic system goes into Dominion, goes into Sequoia, it ties into this larger election rigging scheme, and a lot of people, are tying that into the 2020 election. But it's not just the election stuff. There was an international settlement with ExxonMobil and ConocoPhillips. American businesses came into Venezuela and built out their oil refining. Maduro and Chavez both took advantage of all that. And then they started to enrich themselves, and they started sending that oil to other nations, other countries, Russia.
Let the United States come in and build out their infrastructure, and then they threw a big middle finger at the United States.
Yep. And then so ConocoPhillips and ExxonMobil sued them in international law, and then they won. And now what you're seeing with the oil tankers, you're seeing a financial requisition of their assets, and that's what I see happening.
Yeah. Well, and you talk about finances. I think earlier we were mentioning how the COVID in 2020 was actually a lot about the global financial system and the U.S. dollar and controlling the way that inflation would happen. Well, there's a lot to be said about Venezuela and how the thing that backs the US dollar, we talk about fiat and how it's backed by nothing, which at its core is true. Fiat's not backed by anything.
Nope.
But what does back the United States dollar is oil. There's this concept of the petrodollar. And when we went off the gold standard and went into this new era of the dollar not being backed by gold, what the United States did was we went into Saudi Arabia and got their government to only sell oil in the dollar.
Yep.
And that has been what has kept the dollar as the prominent fiat currency across the world for the last 50 years. And that agreement was a 50-year agreement and it actually just expired. So when you look at a country like Venezuela that has the largest oil reserves in the world,
like 300 trillion barrels or something insane.
Yeah. They have some of the largest. They also have some of the largest silver mines, I believe, sure. That need to be that are still untouched. So when you look at their resources as a country, a big part of the reason why the United States wants to be able to control that over allowing China or Russia or any of these other countries, these BRICS countries.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's all the BRICS nation countries.
It's the BRICS nation
that
countries
are trying to weaken our dollar
yep.
by building out their own system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is ultimately happening. I don't want to get too much into blockchain and cryptocurrency here, but I have a whole other podcast, the Diginachi Sequence, that's all about blockchain and crypto and AI and all that. But all these fiat currencies are getting tokenized, and there's no way around that the dollar is not going to be as dominant as it has been in the past. But by controlling those resources, we put the dollar in a better position. I think what the BRICS countries are really trying to build, and they're going to be able to do it, and as they should, honestly, from my personal opinion, other than being, obviously I'm America first. I love my country, but there needs to be a level playing field of how we're able to transition currencies and value can move across the world.
And I think that brings into a larger picture. And I don't want to say that it's like American imperialism. We don't want to see this expansive, like controlling over countries, right? Like I'm a limited government guy. Yeah. I don't like seeing a large, heavy-handed presence internationally. However, when you actually take a step back and look at it objectively, why isn't America, and I don't want to say America as the government, but why aren't the Americas running its own? Imagine the Americas as a supercontinent, right? From North, Central, and South Americas. Why haven't we established our own industrial lines, our own economic lines to help build each other's economics up? Like, why aren't we doing that? Why haven't we done that? Like, it's in response, or like, I guess you would say, like, it is a Monroe Doctrine-esque type mindset. Why are we allowing foreign countries like China and Russia and Iran into the Americas with their political influence, with their economic influence? We should have a great cooperation and trade agreements with South, Central, and North America.
Yeah.
And we can build that up ourselves. And then you don't have to worry about foreign oil or chips being made in Taiwan or, you name it, on a global market. That doesn't mean we can't have global trade, but to build up our neighborhood, so to speak, on the globe, so that way Venezuela is successful, or, get the Mexican cartels out of Mexico, and we might have better relations with Mexico, or, our friends in the Great White North up in Canada, they've got a lot of resources too, but they're always so anti-America when it comes to Trump's policies.
Yeah.
Or if it's not left-leaning agendas, then that's bad, right?
Mhm.
But I mean, you talk about Alberta or Saskatchewan, like they are, talking about the 51st state kind of mindset, but like we don't want to see this imperialist like expansion. Like, that's how Rome fell.
Yeah.
Because it got it
Got
spread
too big.
itself too thin.
Yeah.
And Rome didn't die in a bang. It died in a whimper.
Yeah.
Over many years, you saw this erosion of policies, of the infrastructure, of their economy over time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a strong avenue to that, and you're seeing that play out in Venezuela, and hopefully we see the Venezuelan people actually elect through safe election process their rightful leader. We don't want to see our own little puppet regime over there running, playing ball for America. We want to see the Venezuelan people succeed and have their own freedoms. Eduardo Gonzalez was the rightful winner of the election against Maduro in this last election. He had to flee to Spain.
Yeah.
After Maduro won.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can see Gonzalez actually become the rightful president, but time will tell. And I think, that immediate response to the bombing and the helicopters coming in, I think everyone was rightfully concerned, rightfully worried. But now time is our ally. Mm-hmm. Time is our friend. And as we see time progress, we can kind of see how this larger play is moving. Yeah. Right. And I do think that I talked about this earlier when I on one of my other podcasts, but you are going to see, I think Maduro is going to squeal like a pig when it comes to the corruption with the Cartel de los Sols, Tren de Aragua. They used the drug narco trafficking angle as the means for them to get in. I mean, the Southern District.
The excuse.
Yeah, the Southern District. Well, I don't want to say it was an excuse, but it was a valid concern, a valid problem.
What's the tip of the iceberg?
Right. And that's how they were able to, expand their war chest, so to speak. Yeah. To get in on a presence and do that action and extract Maduro. But I think Maduro's going to squeal. He's going to talk about the election fraud. He's going to talk about international corruption with other with other countries. Yeah. And that being said, I mean, I do believe that there was a intimate connection with the Venezuelan election system in our 2020 election. Yeah. And that's playing out right now. You see that happen. You see the 300,000 votes in Georgia. You see all those 3 a.m. drops that happened in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Maricopa County in Arizona.
It's just so wild to see people want to stick their head in the sand about this as well.
Oh yeah.
Like, no, you mention anything about this, you're this awful election denier. And like, oh, how can you think this? It's like, no, I mean, here in Colorado, we've got a great example. Tina Peters.
Yep.
Like she was trying to interfere with the election. All she did was take a copy of the results and then of what people actually voted. And then when it was all said and done, those results changed.
What she did was she extracted the data prior to and I always ask people, do you know the real, like what really happened? Because every time I post,
and they don't, because they just want to believe the narrative. And I think that's a huge difference, honestly, between like you and I sitting here having a conversation, people that are on the conservative side of these things. We're sitting here. I feel like we've questioned certain things that the Republican Party is doing almost more than we've even questioned the left at this point.
Sure.
And here we are, we're willing to question and talk about what we don't agree with that's happening, versus on the left, just like, no, like anything, like whatever, it's just believe this narrative.
That is one of the left.
Don't question it.
Yeah. That is one of the left's strengths, is that they're
not divided.
They vote and they move and they operate like a monolith. It doesn't matter what the issue is. They will come out in mass all at once, hive mind mentality, right? Yeah. That is how they operate. And the conservatives, anyone to the right of, Stalin, you know, is they question, they objectively look at things, they call out their own party, and that is one of the Republicans' detriments, is that we are so critical, and there's always this purity test with the Republicans. And going back to Tina Peters though, Jenna Griswold wanted to erase I don't want to say erase, but she wanted to update the election machines with a trusted build. And Tina Peters says that gets rid of our election results, and we need to keep those. We need to preserve those for 2 years. So that's why she that's why she did what she did. And I will stand I will stand by this, is that she could have gotten that information without turning off cameras, without using a falsified identity. And people don't realize it was not her that extracted that information. It was a third party. His name was Conan Hayes. He worked with Patrick Byrne, and he was with Mike Lindell, and he's got some shady stuff. So if you want to know about anything, look up Conan Hayes. Who is Conan Hayes, right? But he was the one who used the individual's identification to go into the system to then extract the data that Tina Peters gathered. There was another county clerk who actually did extract the same information, not arrested because he went through the right avenue. So I'm not saying what Tina Peters did. There was a crime committed, and she could have done it in a non-criminal manner. However, for her to get 9 years, for Judge Barrett to lay down the entire legal book on her, to demonize her, to complete absolute disparagement of how they treated Tina Peters. I mean, a lot of people are joking. They're like, what? We need to save Tina. We need to go extract her, folks. I'm not calling for the Maduro level of Tina Peters. We don't need to go extract Tina Peters from a Colorado prison. Okay,
no blackouts and hundreds of thousands of drones.
Yeah, I see it now.
All the Apache Black Hawk helicopters.
We're not going to do
drop it in the middle of the yard.
I do believe that, that would be hilarious. Just pull the power.
Please get it all on video.
Lock it down. Drones come in. They extract Tina Peters. They throw a net over. They pull her out. No, we're not talking about that. I do want to see the proper legal avenues take place. She's going to have going through the Court of Appeals right now. Trump pardoned her, which is actually an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
The whole presidential pardon and the powers of the presidential pardon. What does that really mean? I do think that Trump was trying to go do a pre-Lincoln interpretation of the pardoning powers of the president. And they always say you can't pardon a criminal on state charges. Well, Judge Barrett made sure that they limited the scope, that they narrowed down. They made it only about Colorado law, not federal law. They omitted 44 pieces of evidence that could have exonerated Tina Peters.
Yep.
So there's a whole litany of reasons why people believe that Tina Peters should be freed. And I stand with her. She should be free. She should be out in public.
I think it's also like you're focusing on the fact that she didn't get the information in the approved Colorado way.
Right.
Versus, well, why aren't we more focused on what she actually uncovered?
Exactly. That is the point.
And that's the hive mindset that you talk about. Right. It's like, okay, well, we don't want to look at what she actually uncovered because that actually shows there was corruption.
They're just like, no, we're not looking over here. Nope. We're not going to go look over here, but we're going to call her, or we're going to call her a criminal. And she was, I love the line that they say. She was convicted by a jury of her peers in a Republican district. And I'm like, that doesn't matter. Honestly, none of that matters because the whole apparatus has been rigged and corrupt from the get-go. Here in Colorado, we have so much corruption. It makes my head spin. It makes me sick. And they actually discuss this in the book Stolen Elections by Ralph Pizzulo.
Okay.
I have that book. Fantastic book. Highly encouraged to read. But they basically are saying that what they do is they don't just flip votes. They don't just inject votes. And what they do in elections is they have multiple different tactics. They do in multiple different counties, multiple different districts. They do so you can't. So it's not a unilateral operation. Mm-hmm. So you can't really go to another place and try to look for the same thing. It's always different slightly. But what they did in Colorado is they just pull 2 or 3% from Republican districts to make the numbers less, to make the Democrat win. in 10 or 12 different Republican heavy districts, they pull 2 or 3%, and no one questions 2 or 3% in a Republican county. Oh, it's lower turnout or whatever the instance might be. No one ever connects the dots that you get 2% lower turnout in 12 different counties. That's almost 30% lower turnout. And then by default, the Democrats will have more votes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how they play it here. But I think that's what Tina Peters saw. And we're going to see that. We're going to see this whole play out. And I do think at the end of the day, and if there's any standing legacy that Trump has, that will last throughout the rest of American history, if we don't secure our elections, if we don't secure, the right to the right of the people to vote, and make it trusted, fairly and honest. Like if the SAVE Act, I think it needs to be pushed through and it needs to be done. There needs to be serious election reform on how states, and I was always bringing up is that states run the elections. Okay, that's great. No problem. But if the state's laws are in direct conflict with the U.S. Constitution, the supreme law of the land, and I think we're going to see that there's a whole aspect of the Constitution called the Supremacy Clause. If state constitutions are not in compliance with the law of the land, the U.S. Constitution, those are null and void. So I think that you're going to see it happening in Colorado, in Arizona, Michigan, you name it, all these questionable election results. If they don't have a safe and trusted way to count the votes, get the voter rolls, get the voter information, dirty voter rolls and all this stuff. That's how they win. So we have to look back to how the states are running their elections. And if they're not running it right, we have to revert back to the supreme law of the land. I think there should be a federal standard on how elections are run.
Well, and that's why it shouldn't matter what side of the aisle you are on certain topics. We have states now that have made it illegal to show an ID to prove that you are a registered voter. Why is it a partisan issue to want to make sure that the people that are voting are supposed to be voting?
It's very simple.
Yeah, they try to say, "Oh, that's discriminatory or whatever."
It's racist.
How? Everybody should be able to agree, because regardless of where you are on a certain topic, whether it be gun rights or abortion or whatever, don't you want to know that when you vote that only people that are supposed to be voting are voting?
Right.
Why is that partisan? Like, why is that not something everybody can agree to? And that's just what blows my mind. I feel like everyone who's an American citizen should want to know. I mean, it goes back to the whole Tabor thing. Like, why is that partisan? Why would everyone as a taxpayer not want to have the right to know where their tax dollars are going, regardless of where you are on certain topics? That's the only way we can operate as a true republic.
Yep. And
it just blows my mind that some of these things are that have turned into partisan issues.
Well, it's sad and it's frustrating. And I think that what it comes down to is that the left just wants power. I mean, to be fair, both parties want power.
Yeah.
But it's how that power is applied and how that power is transitions to the people, right? And how the people should be the highest form of government. Like I said in the beginning, it comes back to that. And the Democrats want the heavy-handed authoritarian state making decisions for us, whether it's gun control, you name it. But the reason that it ties so intimately with the elections is that if elections were honest and if elections were done trustworthy, in person, same day, national holiday, hand counted, paper ballots, very simple. Get rid of mail-in ballot, get rid of all this. If we got that done, the Democrats would never win again, because they cheat. They do it in all shapes and manners. And if elections got done right, I think we'd see a much different colored nation, a much different colored state. And I think we could return back to our constitutional republic, because a constitutional republic is what America is. It's not a democracy, like they said. It's a constitutional republic using Democrat principles. We vote for our representatives in a constitutional republic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's wild, man. I mean, so many different angles and stuff that we could talk about with that, but it's the reason that we had to have even that in the past was it didn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for everyone to vote on everything. So we vote for certain representatives to then go and represent us on these big topics. But like you said, if we can't trust that our vote matter, and it's like, I think this is where it's tough, because you don't want to discourage people to think like your vote doesn't matter.
Right. You don't want to disenfranchise.
Your vote absolutely matters.
Yeah.
Like, we need to do what we can to make a difference and to vote for the morals and the values that we stand by. And there's certain things you have to take a hard line on. Like, there's certain things that you cannot compromise on, because certain things are very black and white. Yeah. But it's discouraging to think that we can have these principles that the majority of Americans might think or believe one way, but it doesn't matter because it's rigged.
Yeah. And this is a moral dilemma that I'll take that back. I'll walk it back a little bit. It's not quite a moral dilemma for me, because while I still question the integrity of our elections, I also do believe that being actively involved in the process and being actively involved in how and who we put in elected office matters.
Yeah.
And, two things can be true. I do believe that there is a huge issue with election integrity, and I think that needs to be resolved as soon as possible. However, getting involved in the process of elections at a state and local level and making those choices happen in your community right here, right now, whether it's your House representative or your state senator, like, these are the things that we can actually have a real result with. Mm-hmm. And I do say that, like, go in and vote the same day of the vote. And that's one of the biggest things, is that, like, right now, until we get a total election overhaul, show up on election day and vote in person on election day, because that is the X factor. That is the unknown variable in the election rigging apparatus, if it were, right? Because if they get early voting, if they get mail-in voting, if they get all this data set that comes in prior to the election, whoever's rigging it, whether it's Republicans or Democrat, doesn't really matter. They both kind of do it. That's how they can hedge their bets on how the election will turn out.
Yeah.
But if you show up day of, you show up in person with all your buddies.
Yeah.
That is the X factor, is the unquantifiable variable that they can't account for.
Right.
And making sure that we get good people in office to make that change. Like I said, the reluctant politician is the best politician. And I think that is one of the greatest ways we can actually take the power back, is by putting these people who actually represent values. Like I always say, maximum liberty, limited government.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what we need to kind of stand by is I don't want to say redefining the term conservatism, because so many people like kind of interpret these different groups of politics differently. But to conserve means to restrict or restrain or hold back, whether it's fiscal responsibility, whether it's legislating against our rights. To rein back the power of government is to be conservative. Mm-hmm. To limit the scope of government is the most effective means we can do to solve the problem of government.
Yeah.
And that puts more power into the people. And that's what I keep coming back to, is that limiting government, giving it back to the people, and making sure you hold your morals, your values, and your integrity high. Mm-hmm. And that's, where you stand, right?
Right.
Those black and white lines.
Yep. Well, and I think that brings up an interesting point. Like, we have these anti-monopoly laws in the United States. You're not supposed to have monopoly, like a business industry. You're not supposed to be able to completely control, even though there's ways that they do. I mean, and yeah, even then I could get into the derivatives market.
They're really good at workarounds,
how they manipulate markets and all this type of stuff, like a great example, George Soros, when he wanted to own a tremendous amount of the copper market. What did he do? He went out and tanked the copper market. Then he was able to scoop it up super low. So, and that's a whole story to get into how he did that. But there's a monopoly on government. Like, think about it. If you don't like your current government, what's the alternative?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
there is no alternative.
There's so many of my
friends.
There's
a monopoly on government.
They're just like, I'm just not going to participate. I don't want to be a part of it. Guess what? Sooner or later, that government's going to come knocking at your door for some reason, whether it's taking your guns away or making sure your kids get transitioned, whatever it is, the government's going to come knocking one way or another if you participate or not. So, it's Pascal's wager, right? Mm-hmm. I would favor to the opportunity to be active in government rather than to be absent of government,
right?
Because no matter what, whether you participate or not, I think at the end of the day, government's still going to be there. So you might as well participate and be involved to be the change, to see the change, to work with it, to get an outcome that's favorable to your mindset, your worldview, rather than to sit back and let it all happen.
Yeah,
I can't subscribe to that, and that's where I was for so many years earlier in my life. Was I'm not going to participate. Well, no. Guess what? It's going to happen one way or another, so I might as well get in the fight.
Yeah.
Get on the front lines, get in the fight, be a part of it. And that's why Break the Chains Media, that's what I do. That's the ethos of Break the Chains Media is got to get in the fight, got to break the chains, break the chains of conformity, break the chains of control, and be that leader that can set us free in the minds of liberty, in the minds of freedom, in the minds of the rights of men and women, all these people, right? That's how we do it.
Well, and it's just, we've got to have a return of common sense, because it's like, I'm a libertarian. I think you should be able to go and live however you want. If you want to identify as a certain thing, if you're an adult and you want to have a surgery to transition, you are, to transition from a guy to a girl or a girl to a boy, whatever you want to do.
But there's only two options, right? Guy to girl or girl to boy. There's only two, right?
But yeah, I mean, and you can call yourself whatever you want. But the thing is it's like, when it comes to things, there's super common sense stuff. Like, we both have daughters. I do not want boys that are transitioning to be a girl to be able to be in the same locker room as my daughter. That doesn't make me feel safe. That doesn't make her feel safe when it comes to actually playing sports. Great example. Sophie Cunningham, the WNBA player, phenomenal. She just had, I can't remember the NBA guy, but there was some NBA player was asked about, and he basically said a good 8th grade boys AAU team could beat any of the teams in the WNBA. And so Sophie got asked about it, and people were expecting her to be outraged, right? And she was like, actually, that's probably accurate.
That checks out, yeah.
Yeah, a really good 8th grade boys team. There's going to be 8th grade boys that are 6'4", that are going to be more physical and stronger than any of the women playing in the WNBA. That doesn't take anything away from the WNBA. Like, the professional sports are entertainment. I think about Gronky Sports is not just Gronky Sports. It's Gronky Sports Entertainment.
Right.
And for those people that don't know, Gronky owns the Nuggets and the LA Rams and,
maybe another monopoly. I'm just kidding. No,
But the point is, like, even Sophie Cunningham can recognize that as a woman, you don't have the same physical attributes that a man does.
Yeah, well, she's just accepting biology.
Right. She's just accepting. It's just common sense. So the fact that, I think there was the Minnesota representative the other day who's trans came out and was like, the conservatives are trying to eradicate me. Like, eradicate our like, we're trying to do some, like,
was it Sarah McBride?
I don't know. Probably. Yeah,
I don't know.
But it's like, no one is trying to, we want to let you be whoever you are. And whoever you want to think you are, whatever you want to do, you have the freedom in America to express yourself, to be, to do and say whatever.
As an adult.
Yeah.
As an adult. But do not leave the kids alone.
Yeah. Yeah. And this should be common sense. Like, why are we having to fight for our young girls to be able to be girls and compete with girls? Like, it's another one where it's like, it seems like that should be, and it's not. The only argument you can hear from the other side on that is, well, what about the feelings of the people that just want to be accepted? It's like, I want everyone to feel good. I want everyone to feel accepted. But when it comes to someone's mental health, that if just because they are a 16-year-old who wants to think, 16-year-old, a boy who's transitioning or whatever, that doesn't mean that they get to come in and play volleyball against my 16-year-old daughter.
Well, let's be honest though, like that as a teenager, it's an extremely difficult time.
Yeah.
And you got all these emotions and testosterone, estrogen, things are playing wildly out. Do not manipulate a child, and do not manipulate whether it's social constructs or gender constructs, whatever. Like, let their biology play out until adulthood.
Yeah.
Before you do this, right?
Well, and it's like the best thing they want to attack Riley Gaines and try to say, well, you weren't even that good of a swimmer anyway. It's like, what's the point? Like, first of all, great swimmer. She's swimming in college. She's doing the things that she's doing. But the point is, if you want to have compassion, it's like they look at this from a point of compassion. They're like, well, we need to have compassion for these people. Well, what about the compassion for the actual girls that are trying to play sports and be able to compete in a fair way?
Yeah,
what about compassion for them? Like, there's no compassion for them.
No, there's not, because they refuse to look at that. Like I said, they are selective blinders. They refuse to look at that because their narrative is gender transition therapy, and that is their goal. So they have to deny aspects of reality and to push their point. It's wild to see the state of affairs and these the selective outrage and the double standards and the hypocrisy on all different shapes and fronts. And the left is very good at it.
Yeah,
the left is very good.
Can you imagine what George Washington and these guys would have thought if they could see the state of our country and what we actually debate?
Imagine this sentence. All right, we bring George Washington back from the dead. Bring him to current day. I said, hey George, check this out. 30 to 40% of our income tax goes to the government, and we're cutting children's genitals off and like his head would explode.
Yeah.
Like he'd be like, what? And they're taking your guns away and whatever else. Like you start listing off all of the craziness, all of the insanity that's happening in this world. Our founding fathers would lose their minds. The first thing they would do is, where's your armory?
Yeah.
Like they'd be like, let's go get these people. And I'm not calling for violence. I'm not calling for any of that. But at the same time, we are at such a level so far past what our founding fathers were fighting for. We have to bring back that 250 years. America's 250th birthday is this year.
Yeah.
Is this year. How are we celebrating the birth of our nation in current era? Like, open-ended question. How are we going to celebrate that? I think we need to celebrate that with the resurgence of liberty. We have to bring back revitalize what it means to really be an American, right? Talking about assimilation of immigrants. Come here, be an American.
Yeah.
But you have to focus on America first, bring all of that ideals and all of that passion, all of that energy into America, bring that back into our country, because I think we've lost sight of our country's originating goals and what it meant to be an American. I think if people just return back to the source, return to the source.
Yeah.
Return to the source, Neo. Go back to the founding fathers, what they actually fought for, what their principles were.
Yeah.
Stand against the king, stand against an authoritarian, tyrannical government, right? And that doesn't mean blocking your car in front of an ICE agent and defying that. Protest in a safe and healthy and effective way. Do not instigate and do not impede law enforcement. It's not a good, it doesn't end well, folks. It doesn't end well. But, there are ways we can do. Exercise your First Amendment. Return to the Bill of Rights. What does it mean to be an American? Return to the Bill of Rights, return to the Constitution. I think that is pivotal to our lasting legacy as a nation. And a lot of people say, like, oh, empires only last 250 years. And I'll make a statement to that, because like you see it in Rome. People are saying, well, maybe we're at the fall of an empire. I mean, we are seeing a lot of chaos and social strife and division right now. However, arguably, I don't think America was actually even considered an empire until post World War I, arguably World War II.
Yeah.
So if we're going to actually use that time scale, America was a developing nation from the 1700s to the mid 1800s, late 1900s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So arguably, we still have a lot of greatness ahead of us if we can solve and if we can work with our fellow neighbors, work with our communities, and understand that the government's not there to help you.
Yeah.
Especially when we see this rife level of corruption, whether it's covering up for the Epstein files or the massive levels of fraud, you name it, international problems, you name it. But I think our solution is coming back to the community, talking to your neighbors, talking to your friends and family around. How do we make America great again?
Yeah.
And it's not going to be Trump. It's not going to be celebrity worship, but bringing it back to the ideals of what America is, starting with the community, building your market, go into the farmer's market, build your hobbies, build your skills, network and trade and barter and be a part of something greater in your local area. And then that energy will flourish into larger and larger movements. And hopefully, ideally, in time, we can see a nation working together, understanding that it's our decision to make this country better by what we do, not by what we're expecting the elected officials to do.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, we raise other people up by first raising ourselves.
Yep.
And you can't pull people up the ladder if you're not already up the ladder. And you can do your best to push people up the ladder from underneath, but at the same time, you can only push so far. I have a higher reach.
You have a way higher reach than me, man.
Most people.
Yeah.
So I could push you further.
Shit, you don't even need a ladder, bro.
But that's the whole point. It's like if we don't take it seriously, because the American dream is the ability to become great, and it's the ability to be able to have the freedom to whatever your heart wants to pursue, whatever your passions are, whatever you genuinely care about.
Maybe the pursuit of happiness.
Yes.
Right? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
That's it. That's it right there at its core. It's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And you cannot ultimately be happy if you are just being handed everything. Yep. If you are just being given everything, you're not going to be happy. Like, to a degree, sure. Like, yes, of course, like you grow up extremely poor in an impoverished nation. You come over here, you're given all these things. You probably are happier than just living in the extreme poverty that you were, but that doesn't last.
It gives you the opportunity to make something of yourself, right?
And it really comes down to what actually gives us happiness, because there's been so many studies to show that just because you come from a higher status, higher wealth, like have more things, you come from a higher income class, like whatever, those people aren't necessarily happier. And in fact, the happiest people in the world oftentimes come from countries that have absolutely nothing. Like, you can go to these countries that have literally they're walking miles to go and get their water, but the kids are playing. And they're kicking balls around. Yeah, what really brings happiness is that community. It is that family. It is that you have something that is stronger and bonds you to a common purpose. It's not money. Like, money can buy certain comforts. And so it's like, yeah, I don't want to see anybody impoverished. But if that's really what this was all about, was taking care of people, the amount of money that the world spends on war, a fraction of that could feed everyone and make sure that we had systems to make sure no one went without food, or build systems to make sure no one went without basic common needs.
Sure.
But that's clearly not what this is about.
No.
Because if that were the case, I think Elon Musk at one point, because everyone will be like, why don't you have all this money, you need to be taxed more. Why don't you like do something to help with all of the world hunger? And there's this organization that was kind of coming, and he's like, show me, because they were claiming it would be like 500, it was I don't want to say the number because I'm going to say it wrong. I don't remember exactly right, but it was a number that Elon Musk had come up with himself. And it was like, that's all it would take to end world hunger. And Musk was like, show me exactly how you're going to use the money and exactly how you're going to end world hunger with it, and I'll give it to you. And guess what? They never showed him a plan.
Yeah.
They never showed him a plan. So why? Because that's not the actual goal.
No, of course not. Well, that is it though. The global hegemonic superpower of the world is the United States military, right? We have to do all this thing. But yeah, like you said, like if you bring it back in, focus on what matters here, we can obviously succeed. And I think you're going to see left and right both agree that like there is an aspect of socialist style tendencies in America, right? We have so many social handouts, a social network all here to give handouts,
subsidies,
subsidizing everything, right? And I'm not against any of that, but if it's not being used appropriately, I am against it. Like if it's not being done effectively and it's not being done appropriately, if it's not being given like all that, remember all that SNAP EBT freak out when the government was shut down, everyone was losing their minds. Because they were going to not have SNAP. Some of these people were on SNAP for over a decade. My kids ain't going to get fed. I'm not going to be able to feed them with the $700 I get from government. Why haven't you gotten the upward mobility yourself to make sure that is something that you can control in your life? No. They'd rather take the government dole. They'd rather take the government handout. And this ties right into the immigration policies, right into how our immigration system is broken because everything's getting given to them. And not only is it given to them, they come here and they refuse to assimilate. And then you get this lack of community because everyone starts building their own little pockets, their own little enclaves of their own little world, and there is no American network of community working together for a common goal, right? The Ellis Island immigrants came over. They came over independently, but as a whole, at the end goal, their end goal was to prosper in America using American government and the opportunities that America gave them. Yeah. Now it's almost flipped, is that America's not giving them opportunities, it's giving them handouts. And these immigrants just expect everything to be given to them rather than America saying, do everything you can to make yourself succeed. And I think we have to go back to empowering the people to make themselves succeed. Yeah. Build back better, but not the globalists narrative, right? We don't want to, we don't want to build back better like Biden version. We want to build America up from the inside, allowing upward mobility of the individual and of the community and of businesses to succeed here. Mm-hmm. And like I said, the supercontinent of America, if we were actually to see a Monroe Doctrine type build out of the Americas industry and economy, it would be awesome to see a world where we can have this almost European style passing of borders and passing through other countries. I don't want to. Some of my conspiracy theorist friends are gonna be like, "Well, you're just talking about the North American Union." I don't want to participate in a globalized, globalism style agenda, but there is a degree of success when you actually take a step back and say, yeah, we actually can make things better if we all have neighbors that aren't actively anti-American. Yeah. Right. So we'll see what happens. I mean, it's gonna be a wild year. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, it is gonna be an absolute wild year, and I think that it really makes me want to touch on the fact that the idea of we want to see everyone succeed and be able to have the ability and the freedom to grow themselves. The reason that the thing that makes it so difficult is that when we have a monetary system, so in 1913, we had the creation of the Federal Reserve, which for anyone that doesn't know, the Federal Reserve is neither federal nor is it a reserve. It is a central bank that is private, that is in control of the monetary policy here in the United States. And when we have a monetary system that continues to make our dollar worth less and less and less and less over time, that is only going to consolidate money at the top and make it to where essentially where we've gotten today, where you don't have the ability to to grow your wealth, unless you understand how to play their game, which is how people have created so much wealth over the last 100 years. Certain people, but people that didn't know how to play that game haven't been able to. Well, in a proper monetary system with sound money principles, the value of money should actually increase over time, and the cost of goods should actually come down over time. And that's why when we talk about, the last time in our country when we were doing tremendous tariffs and things like that was before the Federal Reserve. The reason that all worked then was because we had a system of money that was actually backed by something real, versus this fugazi idea that, well, the Federal Reserve can just print dollars to then buy treasury notes that are then backed by nothing other than the dollars that were just printed out of thin air.
The belief.
Yeah. And so the only thing that backs the US dollar is the petrodollar. If we can protect that, everyone trades oil in the dollar, creating a demand for the dollar, and the US military. That is the only things that support the dollar staying strong.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting to see the next 5 years or so play out, because the petrodollar is important, but we need different forms of energy. We can't keep relying on oil and relying on the petro system. We're in 2025, folks. Like, where's my Jetson flying car? Where's my free, I need a jetpack, or I need some sort of hoverboard. Like, we need some advanced technologies. There's so much potential for future advancements in technology and in the world. Why? And I'm not poo-pooing the oil industry, because I think that it needs to work in tandem with each other, right? Mm-hmm. There needs to be some sort of but there needs to be a form of future tech energy, whether it's small scale nuclear or geothermal. We need to find ways to move into the future. I mean, talk about data centers, talking about infrastructure build out, talking about all this massive needs for energy. And it's going to be interesting how that plays into the petrodollar, because, the oil and everything we've always built on is based in that. But, remember the guy that got shot up in it was an MIT professor who got shot and killed in his home, and he was a fusion professor, a fusion scientist, got shot and killed in his home right during that Brown University shooting. But very interesting timing, because I do feel like there is some sort of quelling of future advancements in technology, no different than Nikola Tesla and how they stifled his energy designs. I mean, we could be living in a totally different timeline if we had free energy that didn't require the petrodollar and the petro system. However, what makes things valuable is how much are you willing to spend on a certain thing, right? So we have to go back to how that value of money and value of commerce and trade actually plays out. It's going to be interesting how that unfolds in the time to come.
Totally. Well, there's the classic example of how much is this glass of water worth to you right now? Probably not much, because you got your own glass of water over there, even though it is empty. So it might be worth a little more to you at this point. Yeah. But how much is this glass of water worth to the person in the middle of the desert that has no water?
Absolutely.
A whole heck of a lot more than it's worth to you or me right now, because we can walk outside the door and go fill it up in a fountain.
Right. So they'll do anything for that glass. Right. So this is the application of a currency system, right? Mm-hmm. What is something worth? What is that inherent net worth to that item or that thing to that person? But it is interesting. But I think that there's a lot that plays into it's just wow. Yeah. Just wow.
Well, and it's such a sham that people think, because so many people are convinced that we have to pay taxes in order for our government to be able to operate. Well, two things. One, it's not true. If we were able to get rid of all the fraud, it's been shown that just getting rid of the fraud in the United States is approximately what the United States collects in taxes. So just getting rid of fraud would mean we don't need to pay taxes. But then there's going to be the people that are like, well, that doesn't make any sense, because
but what about the roads?
Well, if we just get rid of the fraud, then where's the other money coming from?
Right.
And ding, 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 you're right on the money. Pun was not intended, but that was good there. Because where does that other money come from? It comes from the fact that we can create money out of thin air.
Yeah.
So if if the United States can create money out of thin air, why are people paying taxes? It's the illusion that we're somehow funding these things.
Goes back to that cups, the ball and cup game.
Yeah.
Moving money around.
Because they want you to believe that your tax dollars are funding all these things when it's not true. Your tax dollars aren't funding the majority of the budget.
Well, I actually posted this on my Twitter, excuse me, X. I don't want to dead name. I don't want to be dead naming things, but you can follow me at Break the Chains M on X. But I posted a picture of the national debt clock, and I said, I wonder how much of our national debt is fraud.
Yeah.
What percentage of I think we're $38 trillion, some absurd, outlandish amount. But like, how much of that is actually fraud? And why aren't we reassessing where that money is going and how it's going? But that is going to be I think the huge mountain to overcome in the next
year,
ideally as soon as possible
this year. This is the year that it has to happen, or else it's not happening. And I don't want to say it has to happen this year, it doesn't happen, because there's always possibility of anything can happen in the future, right? But this is the year that either we get our shit together, or it's going to be a lot harder to. And not that those obstacles won't be able to be overcome, but it's going to be a lot harder to if we don't do it this year. Because the fact is, everybody here in Colorado, if we were able to truly balance our budget and not have all the fraud, no one anywhere here in Colorado or anywhere across the United States would need to pay taxes. Yeah. None of us would need to pay taxes. Our country is rich in resources, even outside, getting resources from somewhere like Venezuela. Our country, just here in the United States, is so rich with resources that we could fund everything that we need just with our country's own resources. Well, and when you have a system of currency that is backed by those resources, the value of your currency goes up over time. So rather than people having to save in things like the stock market, or save in things like real estate, or any of these assets that have exploded so much over the last 100 years, before the system of the Federal Reserve, before the system of central banking, asset prices didn't explode like they have, because it was an entirely different system. Things were able to stay cheap. Things were able to stay non-volatile. And that allowed people to save. And then just by saving your money, you were able to get ahead. Well, that hasn't been the case over the last 100 years. The savers over the last 100 years have been the biggest losers of this entire environment.
Because every day you save, the value of your dollar goes down.
Since 1913, we're 98.99. The US dollar is worth 98 to 99% less.
I do think that there's an aspect of the Clinton era complete offshoring of businesses and infrastructure manufacturing, the sell-off, turning America into a consumer nation rather than a producer nation.
Yeah.
So that is another aspect of trying to bring back jobs to America and bring back wealth into America. So there is an aspect to that, but I do feel like a lot of this it all comes to a head when you look at it, when you take that Alex Jones 30,000 foot view. It looks like there is a calculated globalist agenda, and it's called Agenda 2030, right? And this is happening all in unison right now, whether we're talking about this Bolshevik-style revolution between sowing division in our country from the left and the right, this domestic violence that's happening across the country in protests and rioting. But it is a civil, revolutionary, and a world war all happening at once, and a psychological war. It's all happening. It's when they say fifth generational warfare, like, I think that there is a large aspect to that. It falls right in suit with this Agenda 2030. That was Agenda 2021. Now it's moved to Agenda 2030. This World Economic Forum, 17 Sustainable Development Goals. All of these things are tied together on energy production, financial policy. Moving the Overton window further and further into a progressive, quasi-cultural Marxist style tyranny, technocratic. It's hard to kind of it's hard to kind of pinpoint it, but we are moving to that. We've got 4 years, and it's going to be a wild 4 years until 2020 or 2030. And we're going to see all this play out in real time, day after day. It's going to get more common. Sadly, it's going to get more common to see this. Oh, you wake up and you see another ICE facility bombed, or you're going to see a abortion clinic, ransacked, or you name it. We're going to see this upper escalation, and I just want to make sure people are aware. People understand that, make sure you're healthy, make sure you're strong, make sure your family's taken care of. Make sure that the immediate network that you are aware of can deal with difficult times if and when they do occur. Yeah. Rather than getting caught up in the rat race. We all still got to deal with that, but making sure that there is some sort of safety net for you and your family, I think, is the best advice moving forward into questionable times.
Yeah. Make sure you have your health, and make sure you have the resources that you need. And I think you just hit the nail on the head with this technocratic system, because you also talked about how we've moved from a producer nation to a consumer nation. There's a lot of people that think, oh, we need to go back to these days of how it used to be. Absolutely not, because the world that we're moving into is going to be radically different. And this year is, I don't want to say this year is the start of it, because it's already been started, but this year is going to be a massive shift. So this year, the Optimus robot comes out. I don't know how much you went down that rabbit hole, but the Optimus robot, I mean, Musk has said that, they're launching the Optimus robot in 2026. Like, we are about to move into this world where even if America becomes a producer nation, that doesn't mean you're going to have a job. That doesn't mean our neighbors are going to have a job. It just means that the factories that the robots are working in are going to be here in the United States. That doesn't mean that there's going to be more jobs, because through AI and robotics, we are about to have the biggest job loss. Like, people think that we have less jobs now than we did 20 years ago or whatever, when we were doing more of our production here. Well, that's about to get amplified on steroids. Yeah. And there are not going to be jobs for people. And this is where I find it super interesting, because those of us that are claiming like, oh, we don't want the handouts, like we don't want to be taken care of by the government. Well, big Republican figures such as Elon Musk, which is also just crazy to think that, Elon would never have been considered a Republican until recently, but he talks about the concept of universal high income. Yeah. He's trying to make it sound better than universal basic income. But when we have all these robotics taking the jobs, AI taking so many of the desk computer type jobs, because the AI can just do it now, we're moving into these same people that are frustrated with the way the world is right now are going to be the same people taking the UBI.
Well, we're gonna see this cliff, right? It's gonna be a job cliff. We're gonna see we are moving into a time like Colorado the city of Denver just raised its minimum wage. Mondami wants to get what is it, $30 an hour minimum wage requirement. Yeah. I mean, all of that goes out the window when you get automation involved. Right. So on top of automation, we're also seeing, our kids' generation, 28% of our kids' generation was aborted. Comparing millennial generation, I think it was, I can't remember if it was millennial or Gen X, 88 million in America, 40 million of Gen Z. Yeah. Right.
With the lowest birth rate ever in history.
Population
lower
decline.
Than at any point, even in the Great Depression.
Yep. Population decline in tandem with automation. And I mean, you're going to see schools closing. Yeah. You're going to see university. I mean, we're already seeing that the canary in the coal mine's dead in the cage. Yeah. Something's about to drop, and it's going to be crazy, and it's not going to be good, which is why I encourage everyone to build skills and build values, work with your hands, because a robot might make hot sauce, but it ain't going to make my hot sauce. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to end up finding people that find these niche hobbies or niche markets that can actually supply and sustain their lives if you get a good skill or a good trade or some sort of product that actually can sustain you in the life within your means.
Yeah.
So you gotta kind of, roll with the punches, but
Yeah.
I'm rolling with the punches with extra hot sauce.
Well, and get to know your neighbors, because get to know the people that are around you, get to know your community. I don't believe in this dystopian future that is where everything sucks. In fact, I really, as much as we talk about some of these hard transitions that are about to happen, if I'm a maximalist on anything, it is humanity.
Yeah, a pro-humanity all the way.
I believe in people. I believe in the hearts and souls of people. I believe that we can be on complete opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to certain political topics or whatever, but I believe in you. I believe that inside of you, you were created by the ultimate creator who loves you, and that inside of you, you have that same spirit of creation within you, and that at everyone's core, no matter how jaded they've become, or no matter what they believe outwardly, that inside of everyone is a person who wants to be the best person that they can be, and inside of everyone is a person that wants the best for everyone else. And regardless of whether we have completely opposing opinions of how to make this future reality of goodness, of a good reality, I do believe that at everyone's core, that's ultimately what we want. And so, it's not that there's this dystopian future that's coming to us, but there are these massive changes that if you do not take advantage of and see and get on the front side of, it is going to be very hard to have the same ability to change your life that we have had in the past or even now.
Yeah. I think some people are going to have to dig a little deeper in themselves
to
find that good in the world, right? I think some people are very lost and walking through a dark room, right? Like they might have to do a little bit more soul searching to find that good part of them, but everyone does. I guess I'd say it like this. I'm not necessarily black pilled. I'm not doomer pilled, but maybe we'll coin a term here. I'm trad pilled. Like I want to return our back to traditional values, traditional living, like the good in humanity. Like maybe we're all trad pilled. I don't know, but I think that there is that innate goodness that comes out of all of us, and I think we want the best. We are pro humanity,
right?
Anti-globalist, pro humanity.
Exactly.
We want to see the best for the future, the best for the world. But it's going to take all of us to do that, and we've got a lot of different battles on many different fronts in the coming days. But we'll get through it like we always do. I mean, humanity's been around for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. Maybe we were seeded here by aliens. Who knows? But at the end of the day, we're here doing the good work and doing the good fight. And I think that's all we can do is, fight for freedom. That's what I always say on my podcast is fight for freedom and never give up. And that's what I live by.
Yeah. Well, I certainly don't think we started as an amoeba.
No. Oh, well,
and then became a fish.
Something happened, something evolved on this planet. And then the next thing maybe aliens and monkeys decided
something transpired.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would use the word evolved.
Yeah, right. Aliens and monkeys came down, and then they maybe threw a party. They had some crazy disco on their spaceship, and next thing you know, humans are here.
Planet of the Apes was essentially just a documentary.
It was a documentary.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Well, Corey, this has been a blast, man. We could go on for hours here, but I think we'll wrap this one up for today. Yeah. Great chatting with you, man, and I appreciate all you that stuck around and watch the show, and I hope you got some laughs and learned some things along the way. But to just close, I would say that it's so important that you get involved, regardless of what your opinions are politically. And I just encourage everyone to be able to have conversation with an open heart and to get involved at the local level. The best thing you can do is get to know your neighbors and get to know people that have opposing opinions of you, because that's how we can eliminate this extremism of people who want to villainize everyone who has a difference of opinion. And if we can start to recognize that all of us are humans that want the best for our neighbor, and maybe there's people out there that genuinely don't because they've gotten so jaded, but those are the people that need the most love and need the most need the most community of people to come around and show them that, hey, we just want what's best, just like everyone. And so anyway, with that said, just encourage everyone to get involved and to do your own research and learn about what's real. Don't just stick your head in the sand and ignore certain topics just because they go against what you currently believe. Like, we need to be able to question our own beliefs. There's nothing more important than to be able to question what you believe, because either you will find that, hey, maybe what I believe wasn't quite exactly true. Or maybe by questioning and really questioning, you'll realize, hey, what I believe, actually now I believe in it even more. And so we've got to get to that point where the fighting amongst ourselves concludes. And that doesn't mean don't stand up for your principles, of course. Like, we need people to be strong in their virtue, but also come at it from an approach of we need to love our neighbor. You know, as Jesus said, the above anything else, love your neighbor. So, I think it's important that we take that approach. And that doesn't mean let your neighbor come in and stomp mud all over your house.
Right.
But what it means is to be a good steward of what you have, and to love others, and to take care of yourself, and therefore you can take care of everyone else.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, no, I it's been awesome being here. Appreciate you having me on. I talk about all kinds of stuff like this on my podcast. You can find me at Break the Chains Media on Rumble, YouTube, X, Instagram. You can find me on my website at breakthechains.media if you want to grab a bottle of hot sauce. There's a drop down there for that. But yeah, I mean, I think that having conversations and making difficult conversations more publicly available, opening your ideas to different opinions, you can double down on what you believe, or maybe something changes and you can open up your perspective to something else. But I think at the end of the day, it comes back down to, I have the 5 F's, right? Freedom, firearms, family, faith, and fitness.
There you go.
And that's what we're doing here. That's what we try to do. Break the Chains Media on all platforms. You can check me out. Thanks for having me, Will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, brother.
Awesome, man.
I'm Will Carr, and I'm here to fire you up.